My name is Tia, not Tisha, not Taja, just Tia. And today, by popular demand, I'm gonna be talking to you about the time I almost joined a cult. So let me just preface this by saying I'm not belittling any group, any person in particular. The people that I was interacting with were pretty well, they were well intentioned, but something fell off once I came back to rational thought. During the time that this happened, I was exploring my faith, whereas now I'm certain in my faith. But that's what you do when you're a college student. You explore. So I'll be describing some of the ceremonies and beliefs that this organization holds, but I won't be saying their name specifically, and I'm not gonna link anything. If you want to find out who they are, you gotta do your own research. I'm not doing it for you, baby. Google is free. So this started in the summer of 2015. I was in between being a sophomore and a junior, and I was at the mall with one of my best friends, Sydney. Hey, Sid. While we were window shopping, because we're broke, these two people walked up to us. The first person was a woman. She was around our age, maybe a little bit older, and she looked like she could be from Peru or Ecuador. She's same height as me. Her skin is a little bit darker, and her name was Erin. With her was this fine man. Fine. I was talking about he looked like a mix of Nathan off of Insecure and Trey Songz. Fine, summertime fine. And me, being my thirsty self, I wanted to see more of him. So wasn't it lucky that they asked us if we wanted to come to Bible study? Now I'm thinking, oh, he goes to church and he's that fine? Sis, I was say less. You ain't said nothing but a word, baby. And looking back, I realized that this was actually a tactic that they use. They seem to target women, people of color, college students, broke people. That's pretty much everything that I was. I was a prime target. I was literally I handed myself to them at that point. Sorry, I'm reading what I wrote down because my memory is awful. And if I didn't write it down, I wouldn't remember what I was talking about. Okay, so they weren't far from my house. They were about 30 minutes driving. And if you're from Georgia, you know 30 minutes driving is literally nothing. And the first thing I noticed when I walked up was that there wasn't any crosses or anything. It wasn't necessarily something weird. It was just something I wasn't used to. So I was like, okay, maybe there's a reason for that. And the second thing that I noticed was there were a lot of people of color. It made me feel oh, okay, well, maybe this isn't as wild as I think it is. Over the weeks, I studied with a few different people, but the main person I was studying with was Erin, and I think it's because she was around the same age as me. She said, in Genesis, God said, let us create man in our own image. Who is us? And I was I didn't even peep. And then they introduced the idea of God the Father and God the Mother. And they took Bible verses and weaved them together and made it sound amazing. And I was hooked. I was oh, snizzy. So then she starts using Bible verses to explain that in order for us to get into the book of life, we have to keep the Sabbath and we have to keep these holy feasts, and that having a cross on your body is idolatry, and we don't do those things, and things like that. And the way they're weaving these Bible verses together, I'm yeah, that makes sense. I'm getting deep into this. So remember, they're keeping the Sabbath, so I'm there every single Saturday, the entire day. And then on top of that, they have multiple midweek services, and then Bible studies in between that. So I'm spending a lot of my time there. I'm really like blowing my friends off, going to Bible study, going to church, keeping the Sabbath, all of that. Everything that they were throwing at me, I was just accepting it. There was no really good reason in my head, but I was like, whatever, you guys are nice. I was really feeling the sense of community at this time. Like, I was feeling at home. The people were kind. They were teaching me things. I was like, this is nice. I like this. This is nice. So it just so happens that they were keeping one of the feasts during the time that I was doing Bible study and coming to the church. And so obviously they invited me, and obviously I went. This service was all the way in West Bubba Fudge, Georgia, in the middle of nowhere. And that should have been the first sign in and of itself. My dumb self was like, yeah, no, it's fine. I'm used to driving hours and hours at a time to get somewhere I want, so this is okay. During the actual service that they were holding for the feast, I'm noticing that, okay, these hymn books don't have the name Jesus in it at all. It says Christ, but after it says Christ, there's someone else's name. And I'm like, I'm holding on to this thought as we go through the rest of the day. So like 2 days later, we're doing another Bible study, but this time the elders are with us, and they're doing their usual like weaving of the Bible verses together, but this time it feels like it's building up to something. And then finally Erin drops the bomb on me. She's like, oh, Jesus came again already, and he came and left. God the Mother is here on earth right now. And then they show me this like quick little video to try and like solidify everything that they've just told me, and then, you know, end Bible study, send me on my way. So I'm driving home like, but it's not like, oh, I don't believe this. It's me being like, dang, I missed the rapture because I wasn't even born yet. I finally get home and I'm like telling my mom all of this because I am trying to wrap my head around the whole thing. So I'm thinking, okay, if I tell her and she reacts similar to how I do or something like that, then it will validate what they're saying to me. And I love my mother. I was telling her everything, and I was saying it in the like convincing tone that they were telling me, and she goes, girl, that's a cult. I was like, no, it's not a cult. I know what a cult is. I've watched Criminal Minds. You never want your parents to be right, even when you know they're right. So when she said it, something like that word just kept replaying in my head over and over again, like cult. And I'm like, dang it, is it a cult? I went on Google and, you know, you type in his name, and the first thing that comes up is the church's website talking about him. And then, you know, you scroll a little bit farther down. Y'all, long story short, this man was not Christ. He got divorced, remarried, and then he named his new wife God the Mother. Then he died in 1985. There are websites, there's a lot of websites that will try and tell you like, oh, that doesn't mean he's not Christ. But the mental gymnastics they have to do to get to that point where they're like, oh, that's not. So if you do this, that, and then the other, this is obviously Christ, and da-da-da-da-da. And you're like, if you have to do all that to get there, then it's probably not true. After seeing all of this, obviously the rose-colored blinders that I had on came off. Because now I came back to my own rational thought, like, okay, some of these things that they were telling me were kind of shady from the beginning, so I should have probably noticed them. But when you want to have that sense of community, when you want to feel like you're a part of something, that's what happens. I wasn't quite ready to just stop going to the Bible study, because now at this point I was doing some reconnaissance. Like, I wanted to see what they were talking about. I wanted to know some more so that I could gather some information and figure out how they even got to this point. So the next Bible study that I went to, I came prepared. Like, I had questions. Obviously, they were ready for this. They started doing their cherry picking of Bible verses to try and justify what they said to me. And then on top of that, they said it was a sin for me to be reading those kinds of things on the internet. Girl. And you could see they were getting like visibly like annoyed, like irritated that I had been reading these things. So around this time is when they were saying like, oh, you should really consider getting baptized into the church. That was like a huge deal for me. I was really not feeling the idea of just getting baptized just because they were telling me to. They were getting really pushy about getting baptized. Like, oh, you need to get baptized into the church. You need to get baptized. You need to get baptized. Until it got to the point where Aaron was literally like, well, I can't tell you anything else until you get baptized into the church. And at that point, I was done. I was like, y'all not going to give me any more information. I have no other reason to be here. So the next text that Aaron sent me asking me to come to Bible study, I was like, I'm going to explore the Bible on my own, and I'm not really interested in what you guys are offering at this point. And that was that. I never heard from any of them ever again. So that's the story of how my mom saved me from joining a cult. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know down in the comments. You can like and subscribe if you want to see more kind of story time videos like this. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got. This was actually really hard for me to tell because it's been a while since it happened. And then on top of that, I didn't realize I was suppressing the memory until something triggered it. It wasn't necessarily traumatizing, but it was a weird experience. I'm glad that I found my faith outside of that. Like, comment, subscribe. Like and subscribe so I know it's real. And I'll see you next video. Bye!